Can you hear me all
Hi.
right?
Yes, perfect. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, cool. I turned the recording on already because sometimes I forget.
Oh, yes. That's the worst.
I was like, that would just be a bad idea. So I'll just set it up and get ready. And even if I have to trim the beginning bit of me just drinking my coffee, then
Yeah. Yeah, of
how are
course,
you
of course.
doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm really good. How about you?
Yeah, good, good, good. Are you in Poland now?
No, I'm in France. I'm traveling back to Poland on Tuesday.
Oh, okay. Oh, do you split your time between the two?
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I have
nice.
my parents live here, and all my friends live in Poland. So yeah, but here winter is a bit nicer. It's summer too, to be honest, because it's right next to the ocean. So trying to just go back and forth all the time. And I have a friend that he kind of has a similar lifestyle. So whenever I'm in Warsaw, I can stay at his place, and we just split the rent for the amount of nights I'm staying at his place. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's a really good arrangement.
that's
Wow.
really good. And he has a great apartment, so it's very, very convenient.
Oh, that is the way forward. Wow, I love that. Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, gosh. Yeah, I mean, I kind of think I'd like to spend part of the year somewhere warm, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, somewhere warm, it's not necessarily, I mean, it's warmer than in Poland. I mean, definitely warmer than in Canada as well. But there is, I mean, last week, for example, it rained all week. So it gets depressive. Yeah, very depressing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean,
But today is
Warsaw's,
25 degrees, so it's a beautiful day.
is it? I
Yeah.
mean, that's like summer in England.
Yeah. Yes, yes. But it's,
Like that's like
it's
a
the
hot summer
exception.
day.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Cool. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Yeah, me
I don't
too.
know if you saw, but I interviewed Alana Medivilla a few weeks ago, who's doing the Dirty Coin film. So
Okay. Oh no, I didn't
yeah,
see that. Nice.
she's fundraising through Geyser. And then I interviewed Mick last week. So we were having a
This I
chat
saw.
about,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was really pleased that he's put the tagging in now. So now you can actually
hmm
find the types of projects that you want, which I thought was really cool. Um,
Yep. I made their video describing the features and stuff. So,
oh,
yeah.
was that you?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, I thought it looked very professional actually. I was like, oh, this looks very slick. Nice. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, there's been a bit of an explosion really in kind of Bitcoin films, I feel like, and,
Mhm.
and more and more seem to be happening. And I was just kind of like, oh, I'm really interested actually to delve into it with a few people. And I was like, who do I know? And I was like, I know Pierre. I should interview
Yeah.
Pierre. um, so I guess, I mean, for those that don't know you, can you give a bit of context to your background? Because I know that you obviously had a background in consulting. Can you talk a little bit about your professional journey, I guess, and how you got to filmmaking?
Yeah, sure. So first off, I'm French and Spanish, but I lived in Poland most of my life, so I was always in transit. And I decided to study business when I was finished with high school, and focus on finance as well, right? So it was completely different from filmmaking, but I always really enjoyed filmmaking. And when I went to do my master's degree in finance, I did it in Australia, and I did a 6-month film course because I was trying to chase this passion.
Ah,
But at the same time, I developed a passion that I was quite surprised because I thought it would be the opposite. But I developed this passion for finance through my studies. So I found it very, very interesting. But always with filmmaking in the back of my mind. And when I started working, I also decided to learn how to program at that point because I just thought it was fun, a great way to build certain things. And so my career, little by little, started getting more and more into tech simply because I started with telling my boss, look, we're all using the same Excel files. I can do some simple coding and automate some stuff. We'll save X amount of time. This is X amount of money. Like, what do you prefer my priorities to be? Like, save everyone some time and money or, do some process work and stuff. And just more and more complex projects like this one led me to work only in tech. And so I was for 2 years, about 2 years, just pure consulting. And I worked for Accenture then, which is one of the biggest tech consulting firms in the world. I mean, they have over 500,000 employees in the world. And yeah, so I did a bunch of different projects for companies like Microsoft, Airbus. And of course, when you're a consultant, it's a wide range of projects. Some of it was development, but I also did some videos for one of the clients. simple kind of videos, but it was really we were doing a whole internal communications campaign, and we
Oh,
had to just make some good explanation presentations, and then I would just record myself with the simple animations that I was doing at the highest level. And when I got sick of my job, I was just a few months after doing all this work for this client. I was, obsessed by Bitcoin. This is why I quit my job, right? I just wanted to do something in Bitcoin. So obsessed in thinking, what can I do for Bitcoin? Like there's a wide range of stuff I could potentially get involved in.
yeah.
And but there was always this interest in filmmaking. And after watching a documentary called Inside Job that I always quote because I just love this documentary. It covers the global financial crisis of 2008, and after watching this, I thought, man, I can do the same thing. I mean, in the end, what is it? Making a documentary based on narration and like, what's the work there? It's really just making presentations and animating them and talk over it. Yeah. So I thought, I mean, I have all the skills for that. Like, why not just go for it? And yeah, and so that's why I
Wow.
spent 7 months making a film.
I was gonna say, is that how long it took, really? Wow. That's
Mhm,
quite a
mhm.
commitment, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, yes. Well, because at the same time, there was, I think we could have done it faster, but obviously I'm also working with other people. They have their own schedule. And I did the first whole editing portion and, then sent it to a friend that could polish the editing, make it just better all the way. And of course, he has his own schedule and same for the music, it's always when you collaborate with people, you just have to adapt to different schedules. Otherwise, I think, if everything would have gone in one go, maybe 5 months it would have been possible, but not less than that.
Okay. Oh, that's really interesting to get a sense of the timeline. Um, so I didn't realize actually that you had formal training in filmmaking. I was kind of like, how the heck did he learn how to
I
do this?
mean,
But now I understand.
formal training, it was formal in the sense that it was a professional person teaching us these things. But
Right.
in 6 months, when you're in a group with 10 people, sure, we did a short film that, to be honest, sucked. But I mean, what else can you expect? Like, obviously, it's students that are doing this for the first time in their life. Put together, there was very little guidance at that point. What they
Oh,
wanted us to do was really for us to do the film ourselves. They were, of course, there, and if we had questions, they would help out, but they were just more there monitoring. The idea was for us, the students, to just hack it and figure it out ourselves. But there wasn't that much hands-on when it comes to editing.
right.
All of that was done very much together with the teacher, but a lot of it was done by him in particular. So a lot of it then was just me on my own time, just having fun, trying to put stuff together, edit some simple videos I have on my personal YouTube channel, some like old travel videos that I mean, it was a lot of fun, or like I went drifting with a friend, and so I just took my camera and was, that same day tried to make a video out of it. So simple stuff, but that allowed me to get familiar with editing software and
Right.
the whole process.
What's the key kind of skill? Is it the ability to craft a story, or is it like the technical stuff? Is it a mixture of all of it? Like what makes a good film in terms of the skill set that you need to bring to that?
So um, I think the very first point is to have just a good story
Mm,
and the right order in telling it. Because if you think about it, there's stories that are filmed in a very amateur way, that or are based only on some hidden camera kind of thing. So the quality of the image is either average or poor. Yet, depending on how the story is told and is built, it can be fascinating to watch, even with
mm,
simple editing, right? So the base story, I think, is the source of it. And there's of course filmmaking, there's documentary filmmaking, and even within documentary filmmaking, you can separate it in two categories. There's like my film, The Great Reset and the Rise of Bitcoin, that is a very just research-based documentary.
hmm
And on the other side, you have the kind of documentary that is going to follow a main character, in which case you don't necessarily know what the story is going to be. You're not necessarily the one writing the story. You're just
mm,
following the story as it's happening. And then your job as a filmmaker is to put it in the right order and just be able to make sure it's an interesting story in about an hour and a half. Um, so it also requires different kind of skills. For me, in the research-based documentary, I mean, it fits much more with my professional experience, because when you're a consultant, I
Right.
mean, sure, you have to work for the client, and this is in theory 100% of your time spent on that, because the client, pays for 100% of your time. But you have all the additional stuff you need to do. Part of being a consultant is sales, and you have always, in a big structure, particularly, you always have managers, multiple levels of managers, and they have to pitch, and they have a lot of their results based on sales that they can do. So to do that, there's always just these sessions of like, okay, now we have to try and find a solution for Spotify, because again, I was in tech, right, and it was mostly focused on software and platforms in my department.
Mm.
Um, and so, then okay, well, let's just sit together. There's 5 people on the call, including a manager, and we think, okay, what can we offer for Spotify, right? And so then we have to find problems in the whole industry. We have to find problems in their service, and then offer solutions that we could implement for them. And so there's just a lot of research put into this, crunching a lot of numbers, market research, their financial numbers, all of this. And then once you have all of this research, you need to be able to make it in as little slides as possible. So it's,
Yeah.
really a matter of getting all of this information and being able to condense it. And I think I learned it on the job as a consultant. Now, if I can also add something that I think also develops a lot of skills, it's the knowledge of programming, because programming has the approach that you have in solving problems when programming is that you have one big problem that you have to break down into tiny problems that are then broken down into smaller problems. And then it allows to just have this better visual mapping of a big idea. So I think, that's the kind of the kind of skills that I was able to use in order to make this film. Because then the technical side of editing, I think even if you're very bad at editing, you can make something that is good enough for another editor to work on.
Hmm.
And if you're just better at editing, it means you're going to be able to be much more efficient at it. So it's of course a super important part of the film, but it almost comes second, because you first need to have the right story structure. And
Right.
for a research-based documentary like mine, you need to have all of this research done before that. So it's
Hmm.
multiple skills kind of needed, but the less of these skills you have, it simply means the more time it's going to take while you're developing these skills in your research and your work. If you have them more developed, you'll just be better at it and faster.
Yeah, it's really fascinating the journey that film is taking, because I feel like, leaving the kind of specifics of the Bitcoin film industry aside, just Hollywood is becoming so generic and so repetitive. Like, all of their films are just remakes, maybe with women instead of men or something. I mean, it's just, but the whole thing is becoming ridiculous. And I was listening yesterday to a podcast, and I can't remember for the life of me which podcast it was, but they were talking about some filmmakers had gone to Egypt to make a film, and they'd filmed in other locations. They arrived in Egypt and all of their equipment was seized, even though they had all the right paperwork and the permits. And so that segment of the film, they ended up filming it in Egypt, but just using their iPhones. And apparently the
Okay.
end product was amazing. And I thought it's really interesting because, what you're describing is, if you have that storytelling skill, you could effectively just take your iPhone, film wherever you want on location, and then if you can edit stuff, like, it's cheap to get editing software now, and to do that stuff, you could make something that was watchable. So I kind of hope that this means that we've got a really good revival of interesting independent films. That site, My Movie Plus, that you sent me, I thought was awesome, where it's just like they're trying to do that and actually, deliver people stuff that's not generic and very Hollywood. So it's just
Yeah.
an interesting trajectory. I
Mm.
wanted to ask you about your Bitcoin journey then, because you said by the time you went into the sort of, obviously, the Bitcoin filmmaking, you were into Bitcoin. How did that happen?
Yeah. So, I was always interested in finance from the moment I studied it. And so personal finance was something, I knew I had to base my life around managing my own personal finances. That was, just me in my 20s and my resolutions, let's say, early 20s. And And I remember I've heard of Bitcoin very early because even my brother, my older brother, used to mine Bitcoin. And when
Oh,
Bitcoin
wow.
reached $1,000 and then crashed to $100, they dropped it. Him and one of my closest friends.
Oh
And
my God.
yeah, for them, Bitcoin was dead. It was the first time that they were experiencing a Bitcoin bear market, and it was 2013. I mean, Bitcoin was dead compared to how dead it is today. You know what I mean? Uh, so I had heard of it quite early, but never, for me it was just funny internet money. It wasn't going to hold on. I didn't spend the time, didn't feel it was interesting enough. Just naive, the first approach that I think most people had. And but one day I remember I was like, okay, I got some savings. It's time to like invest in something. I think it's a good idea. And I went out of the doctor's just before going to work, I remember. And I checked my phone and I saw that there had been a flash crash on Ethereum. So the first one I bought was Ethereum, not Bitcoin. Yeah.
Mm.
Big regrets, but you got to start somewhere. And that was 2017, and that's the first time when I got into crypto. I just understood Bitcoin, and my initial thought was that Ethereum is likely better. Big mistake, but it
Why
was,
was that out of interest? What was the kind of logic tree there that happened?
yeah. So for me, the logic is simply that I was a programmer, and um, it felt like it was really something new. And I
Mm,
think that's one of the things that makes a lot of devs get into crypto before they get into Bitcoin. Because if you want to be a Bitcoin dev, I mean, of course, there's the Bitcoin core devs and like, people that are developing Lightning and so on. But people that are most programmers that work in tech, obviously, they're just working building these additional layers on TCP/IP that we have, right? It'll be building the
mm,
next social network or the next feature on a social network, the next tool that can be used just simply to improve your experience of the internet.
mm.
And um, the approach towards Ethereum, my approach towards Ethereum was the same one because I had this image that, well, okay, great, we have like money that can be used online as decentralized, great, but we can actually build some more things on top of it. And
Right.
and this is why I got into crypto before getting into Bitcoin, which in the end it's a huge mistake because Ethereum is worthless and it's there's no sense in building things. What matters is looking at Bitcoin as this TCP/IP protocol on which you can build things on top of it, right? And you don't need to build them on this protocol. You don't need to build them on Bitcoin. You just build them around Bitcoin. But
Mm,
this curiosity for new tech, this curiosity for a new way to build programs, to code in a new environment, this is what got me. It just felt more exciting because as a dev, I could just go and like, check it out, have some fun, and actually build even something very simple. Because the first
yeah.
time you code a smart contract on the Ethereum blockchain, it feels like you did something amazing, even though even though it's nothing, I mean, it's very, yeah, very, very stupid. But so I think this is what got me, it was really this idea that this is where lies true innovation. Um, and it took me a while to understand that it wasn't. I even did some tutorials on YouTube on how to code in Solidity, so it's, yeah, it took me a while to understand it. But 27, the peak hit, uh, bear market started. I even abandoned crypto for a while there. I mean, I was just following the minimum, let's say, like some of the YouTube accounts I had followed on during the bull market. And what's interesting actually is that during the bear market, at least back then, I don't know what it is now because I don't follow these people anymore. But all the people that were talking about crypto during the bull market were then only talking about Bitcoin during the bear market. And so,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah. So I had a lot of work. I had huge projects at work before, during the whole bear market. So I kind of had it just on the back of my mind, like, okay, I'll get back to it at some point. I don't know. Um, but sometimes I would still watch some of their videos that were only on Bitcoin and, stock to flow and what Bitcoin projections could be, some of the more fundamentals of Bitcoin. And little by little, I was thinking, okay, maybe there's really something more to this Bitcoin thing than what I thought. And that's when I then discovered, Saifedean, Plan B. And this, from that moment, is just this spiral down of your eyes opening whatever you're looking at.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really fascinating. Roughly when was that then? Like what year would that
The
have been?
full discovery was in 2020, early 2020. Yeah, well, before that. Yeah, maybe second half of 2019. That this is when I thought, okay, the only thing that matters is Bitcoin. So you see, 2 years, then
That's pretty
two,
amazing though, isn't it? Because then your film came out, what was it, in February, January or February 2022, the Great Reset.
that's right. Yeah, in January. Yeah, yeah,
That's really
yeah.
quite amazing actually that that journey happened relatively quickly. Like when the penny dropped, it was quite a quick
Yeah,
process.
kind of. Yeah, I guess so. Well, because at that point, that's when you start obsessing on Bitcoin Twitter, and it's the only thing that matters in the world. It's the only thing you can talk about. And like, we've all kind of been there, and bull market hit. I made some money, obviously, because I was holding Bitcoin, and it just gave me this confidence and realized that, my last project at Accenture before quitting was for Microsoft, and it's the dream project for a tech consultant. It was um, data, a lot of data, crunching numbers, data science, analyzing them, getting insights, being able to share insights with business, create automations based on these insights. Like, it's the dream kind of thing for someone that likes geeking out, and it's a project for Microsoft. Like, I mean, wow. And I just started that, and 2 weeks in, I told my boss, "Look, I can't." I was like, "Well, okay, maybe like we should find you another project." And I said, "No, like I think I have to quit." And so it was really, yeah, I just got tired of it. Also, at Accenture, I'm not sure what it's like now. I believe for consultants like me, I mean, like I used to do, they're still not getting into the office. So since COVID and lockdowns,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Huh.
And, I mean, of course, the team that I was in anyway, it was a whole department whose goal is to support local Accenture teams. So the idea was that if someone in France or in Ireland, in the case of Microsoft, needs a particular skill, but locally at Accenture they don't have it, then they reach out to us, and we would travel every 2 weeks or something,
Yeah.
and just spend some time at the clients with the local teams and work. So before COVID, I was already always working from home, right? Even though I was a corporate employee, or at the clients directly, but never in the office. But
Yeah.
still, after a while, just being at home working on this stuff was like, I just got so tired of it. Like now I still work from home, but I'm working on stuff that I'm much more interested in. So the approach is completely different. And I think I reached, this point of like, man, this fiat job is really not working for me. And yeah, and so I told my boss, look, I quit. He insisted, he was trying to find other ways just for me to stay. And I said, look, is there anything with Bitcoin? And I was already pushing him for months. For months, I was saying, look, is there anything with Bitcoin? He was like, no, no, no. I was like, okay, is there anything with crypto? Like, at least something that gets me closer. No, 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 man. Okay, well, sorry. Well, if there's nothing to do, then I'm just gonna go my way. And
It's actually
which
astounding how little like investigation into Bitcoin large corporations are doing in a serious way. When you consider, to me, I mean, it's like if you cared about the internet and you could see the potential of the internet, and many people did, back in the day, Bitcoin's like that on steroids. And it's wild to me how many people are missing the point. It's really wild to me. And I keep thinking, how is it we're still so early? And how is it that so many bright, intelligent people just don't get it? They just
yeah,
don't get it. It's really nuts. I wanted to ask you as well about you mentioned about how, like, you became obsessed with Bitcoin because once you find out about it, that's all you want to think about and talk about. And we've all kind of gone through that journey. I think for those of us that just feel, like you said, there is nothing else apart from friends, family, pets, kids, whatever, that's important in life. um, why do you think that is? Like, what's your take on why that happens?
you mean that people stay outside of the Bitcoin system, kind of in the
No,
fiat system?
when people leave the fiat system and get the Bitcoin piece, why do you think that it becomes so all consuming? I don't know whether you've ever just kind of thought about that. Like, why is it that suddenly that's all you can talk about, that's all you can think about, that's all you want to work on?
Yeah,
Because it happens to everybody. But why
yeah.
do you think that is?
I think it's because you realize little by little while you're going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole that actually the fiat system, because that's mostly what you learn about. You learn about the fiat system and the fact there's an alternative that could really change the way we think and approach different problems of our day-to-day lives. Um, but I think that learning this fiat system, you realize that it's the source of so many issues. It's the source of, I base my life on this when in fact it's based off nothing, first of all, right? If we think of fiat in terms of the money. So you
Yeah.
kind of get to that realization and you realize how much of it is manipulated based on this fiat system. And so a lot of it just doesn't matter, in fact. That's the thing. That for me, that was the realization, is that a lot of the stuff that we care about doesn't matter. We're just made to care about it because of how the system is built and the incentives are built around it. And I think that finding this out just, I mean, it's so mind-opening that
Mm.
you obviously just want to try and open other people's minds, because it is a special experience, opening your mind to ideas that you completely thought were wrong. I mean, you had thoughts of only the opposite, and all of a sudden you're questioning yourself and what you were thinking. All this, I mean, it's quite a process that is enlightening, and it's a good experience, and it's for the best. It allows you to start thinking by yourself, and I think it just makes you want to be even more involved in that world as well, obviously, because I mean, if everything around you is bullshit, you want to get as far away as possible from it, and be able to influence the new world that you believe is the better world.
It's funny, actually. That's a good way of describing it. It is like an enlightenment. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and somebody was saying it was like a revelation. They
Yeah,
described it, but I think
yeah.
actually that's a very enlightenment is a very good way of phrasing it, because it is funny. It's. I was thinking about this last night. I was just thinking how nobody crosses over into the Bitcoin world and ever goes back through that door to the fiat world. It just never happens.
Hmm.
And I kind of think that those who would, we come in peace, but it's like those that would fight us don't realize that the Bitcoin side is only going to grow, and that the people that have a belief in its power to kind of change the world for the better, um,
Hmm.
it's so important to them that this isn't something that they're doing for money or power. It's like it's almost like you have this calling to it, and once you're there you just cannot do anything else. That one thing is just the one thing that you're like, this is the most important thing I can possibly do. It's a very strange experience, very strange
I,
experience.
I think so. And then you see the motivations of people and how, I mean, I'm working now on organizing the first Bitcoin film festival, right? Um,
Yeah.
it's so much work and no money for me in it. So yeah, it's priorities, your priorities change, I think, simply.
Can you talk about that actually? Because I had that on my list of things to ask you about. Can you talk about the film festival, and I guess what the inspiration was for doing that, and like what's happening, like share with people what that's going to be like.
Yeah, sure, sure. So Bitcoin Film Fest. The idea came already a while back, I remember I was traveling last summer in Barcelona, and I went to a Bitcoin meetup, and we were talking about film. There was another filmmaker, she wanted to get into Bitcoin filmmaking as well. And we just had this idea already then, we talked about it. But it was just, oh yeah, great, it would be a great idea. Cool, cool, cool. And we left. But then I went back to Poland. I don't know when it was, in November, I think, or October, and I went to a Bitcoin meetup. It was actually the first time I was going to a Bitcoin meetup in Poland, because the community is still small in Poland, but it's growing actually, and
Ah,
I hope this initiative is going to push it much stronger. In Poland, they're very crypto people.
oh,
I guess that's
really?
true. Yeah,
Hmm.
I guess it's true of a lot of places still. It's more crypto focused than Bitcoin focused, I think.
Right.
But in Poland, especially they're very um, there's a lot of programmers, they're very technical, and I think they kind
Hmm.
of have the same approach that I was talking about that I had myself personally. Um, but Poland is a great place for Bitcoiners because I mean they had communism just 30 years ago. They understand what is the change of currency. They understand hyperinflation. There's like so I think there's very high opportunity to spread the word of Bitcoin in Poland, and that's what we're hoping
Mm.
to do. So I went to this meetup, and the guy that runs the meetups, and I mean, runs them, that kind of coordinates and organizes them. He's called Tomek, and a very nice guy. So we met, we really hit it off, and he organizes for, I think, 7 years already, a conference that is a libertarian conference. So it's about free
Huh.
markets, capitalism. In fact, it's called the Weekend of Capitalism. And so
Oh.
he's
Huh.
yeah, he's always been an activist for freedom. He's helped. when the war started in Ukraine, they received funds from the Human Rights Foundation in Bitcoin actually to buy trucks, fill them up with clothes. So they built their own Kevlars with some friends of his from his community, just taking some jumpers and putting metal plates in them and sewing them just to send them all to Ukraine the first week of
Wow.
the conflict started. Yeah, so very passionate guy, a lot of initiative, does a lot of stuff, and he's organizing stuff is what he knows how to do basically. And he was telling me, look, I'm going to organize the weekend of capitalism. It's of course focused on free markets, capitalism, but he wants to add some Bitcoin into it because he's a Bitcoiner, hardcore Bitcoiner. And the audience there, not necessarily. They understand free market, but they don't
Yeah.
necessarily understand the fact that Bitcoin is the solution. And last year for his conference, he already added some elements. They donated sats to everyone that was there if they downloaded a wallet with some of their partners. And this year he said, look, I want to do something extra, but to make sure that the same community comes, it has to be a similar format. So maybe we can think of something. And we just thought, okay, let's do a film fest. Like, why not? And yeah, it took us 2 months, I think, of really thinking about it. What could we do? What could it look like? And then in December, he just went to a cinema that is right in the center of Warsaw. There's this old communist building called the Palace of Culture. It's the building that represents Warsaw. Let's say if you type Warsaw on Google, it'll be definitely on the first image.
I googled the venue as well. I mean, it's beautiful. Oh my
It's
God.
beautiful, yes, and they're
Wow.
they're very nice. They're a completely independent cinema. They love doing different kind of film festivals. They're very open to new ideas. They just want stuff to happen around their cinema, and very friendly, very kind people. And they said, okay, let's do it. So they joined us as partners as well. They're selling tickets themselves, so it's not
Wow.
only us. And from that moment, we're like, okay, well, what's the next steps? Well, we have to find all the films. That we want. Oh, 1 second. That may be annoying. You can hear
What was
the
it?
drilling, right? You can hear drilling? Oh, okay. Great.
No,
Perfect.
I heard a
We can.
slight noise before you got up, but I can't hear anything now. So,
Okay. Yeah, I
no.
closed the window. Okay, great. So if ever I'll try and move if it's a problem. Um, And yeah, so we had to find the films. So we did a huge list of all the films. We went through all of them and just started thinking, okay, who do we know first off of these filmmakers? Who can we reach out to easily? What are the films that we think are worth showing? We considered, for example, Cryptopia was on the list, but then we thought, well, it's a good film. It's great. It's on Netflix, but at the same time, it's on Netflix. Like maybe let's try and show something that
Right.
isn't already so mainstream. And so we shortlisted other documentaries, of course, mine as well, because that's an opportunity that I wanted to take. And that's in fact, the first idea we had was to screen my film, and then we thought, okay, maybe we can screen more films and make a film fest. So we found all of these other films and we set the dates with the cinema. And then after that, it was just a matter of finding all the partners and try to bring people on board. We're very last minute with the organization because one of the sponsors for the conference only came in later. But yeah, it's quite an experience. The community is really stepping up. I mean, yeah, I'm surprised how involved the community is getting instantly, which is great. I just received a call yesterday from one of the volunteers saying, "Hey, we're actually making a brochure for the film fest. It's like our first archive document about the film fest. Can you help me get this and that?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." I had no idea that they just started this initiative of making a brochure for the film fest themselves. We didn't even need as organizers to give them the idea. They just yeah, it's quite amazing, I have to say. Yeah, and so it's
It's really
happening next week.
incredible.
It's next week, next weekend.
God, I'd
And
love to come. I'm so sad I can't be there. It's just such a cool thing to do. I mean, a film festival is just always fun anyway.
mm,
And there's one they do in London. It's called the begins with a B. I can't remember what it is, but it's like an independent film festival, and it
mhm.
goes over the course of a week, and you can basically book tickets. And very often, the director of the film is there, so you watch the film, and then at the end, they kind of take Q&A, which is just amazing. Like to sit there. And I
Yeah.
was imagining that you're probably doing something similar, right?
Yes, that's right. That's right. So we're screening 8 films, 2 of which are short films. Unfortunately, not everyone can come because, I mean, some are far away. I mean, we have Bitcoin is Generational Wealth, for example. The director of this is Matt Hornick, and he is Canadian. And actually, he's traveling now, but it's a long trip to do just for a weekend
I
for
think actually I met
the
him was he at the Bitcoin
at
Collective
Edinburgh.
conference?
Yes,
Yes, we
yes,
did the
yes,
Bitcoin
yes.
walk together. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay, yeah, nice, very nice guy.
yeah.
And so, he can't make it. So there's also a sly roundabout way that is about the first Bitcoin diploma. The filmmakers are, I believe, from Guatemala. I think they're Guatemalan,
Ah,
and they can't make it either, which makes sense. Same thing for This Machine Greens, the Swan film. Jamie King is the director, and he can't make it either. He lives in California. It's a just for a weekend, it's a hard trip to make. But we do have. I mean, there will be me. We're gonna have Aaron Rubin and his partner that did the documentary Human Bee from Germany. We're gonna have
wow.
uh, Rémi Fort. He's from France. He's the director of the Satoshi Mystery, which is also one of these documentaries that landed a big distribution platform. It's from Arte, which is a big European um, company that just distributes films since decades. So amazing, he's coming too. Yeah, we have people from
Wow.
Cointelegraph. We're going to show one of their short films about the Bitcoin farmers and the Irish Bitcoin company that managed to orange pill farmers
Oh,
to
wait, so
use
you're
their
doing, is that Joe Hall's thing with skilling?
exactly yes yes yes. So they're
Oh,
gonna actually they're the only ones that are going to be premiering. They made a short film out of this story, and they're premiering at the festival.
oh, that is awesome. So is Mark coming? Mark from Skilling?
Yes, exactly. Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
that's
They're all coming.
amazing. I was on a call with him yesterday. Oh, that's so
Oh,
cool. I didn't realize he was going to be there. Oh, that's amazing. I
yes,
can't
yeah.
wait to see that. That's really exciting because that's actually I just find that whole project. The UK is very kind of behind, I guess, on Bitcoin mining.
Hmm.
They're not a hub at all. And I
Hmm.
just feel like what Mark's doing is so amazing and just not enough people know about the fact that this is a thing and that you can do this actually quite easily. Oh, that's
Yes.
amazing. Wow.
Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, so they'll be premiering at our film fest, and that's exciting. And they're all going to be here. There's going to be Joe Hall is going to be there. There's going to be also Jackson, which is the director of this film, and there will be, of course, the guys from Ireland that are flying over. So there'll be a big panel, to just Q&A and talk about the whole project. Now, of course, we're going to have some
Wow.
after parties and stuff because the film fest is Friday and Sunday. And on the Saturday is the conference, the Weekend of Capitalism. So it's going to be a full
Ah,
weekend of just free markets and Bitcoin, which is going to be busy times, busy times.
so
But
the timing of it is so funny as well with everything that's happening with the bank runs and all the rest of it. But I'm sure actually I'd love to get your thoughts on that because I've seen you've posted a lot of stuff on Twitter about it as well. Is there going to be a film about this incoming?
um, well, look, I think not really, but some elements perhaps. So I'm working on a new documentary, right? The fight for the U.S. dollar, which is a Geyser campaign. And what's interesting is that, actually, if I can just mention, we do have Geyser as a partner for the film fest, and there will be a
Oh, you
voting system
do?
using stats. Yeah, we have a
Oh,
Twitter Spaces later today. We're gonna be explaining that, so that'll be very exciting. But anyway, that's just a thought that came. So the fight for the U.S. dollar. Uh, I have a trailer for it that will premiere at the film fest as well, and after that, I will share it online. So next week, you can expect to see the trailer for my documentary, um, and it's really about who is making sure that the developed world stays developed compared to the developing world. And it's mostly the BIS and the IMF through different policies or, shark loans
mm,
that they give out to these countries. Um, so that's the bigger part of the story, but there will be a transition towards CBDC, and then of course to Bitcoin, because the whole point is to explain that Bitcoin is an alternative to their system that they are completely running and abusing 80% of the world with it.
yeah.
Um, and there are some elements that we are thinking of introducing, but we'll just have to see how they develop. Because again, it's the fight for the US dollar. The idea is that with a new system like Bitcoin that is arriving, well, it is a system that uh, they have all the incentives to block
Mm.
because it destroys their world completely. And some of the news that are coming out right now with Signature, the fact that it seems like they were solvent, but they took control. I mean, they nationalized the company anyway, to then sell it, but making sure they remove their whole crypto line of
The
business.
yeah, the precondition, yeah. You can
Like
buy it,
this.
but only if you shut down the crypto business. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's the kind of thing, that it's great examples, but we just have to see how it's going to evolve. Because, I mean, for now, the people that are saying that Signature was stolen, from what I saw, right, are just board members. So, you know, the numbers have to be verified, I think, and truly confirm the fact that they were not insolvent. Because if that's the case, in that case, it's the US government that just decided to take control of a bank in order to remove their crypto uh, solutions the week where they announced the the date
Yeah.
of their CBDC going live, So it's all of this is still too early to make sure we have the right story around it to include in the documentary, but we're looking at that, we're exploring it because it's just great examples of how the current system is fighting for its position. Another
Mm.
great one that will be included in the film, though, because it's really happening in front of our eyes, is the switch that Nigeria is doing to CBDCs and how the local populations are reacting. This we want to mention because it's the best transition, to show that this is our fiat system. We have something that is breaking down. Governments are trying something that is this CBDC and uh, showing to viewers what it actually looks like when they're pushing this on the
Mm.
ground, because Nigeria is the best use case for that, is bad. And we should just focus on Bitcoin. So it's the
Yeah.
kind of stories that we want to be able to add there to show that there is a real conflict against Bitcoin. Of course, at the level of the regulators in the US and what they did with Signature, I don't think they quite understand the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. And they just, look at it as a whole and just try to block the whole thing. But of course, our message is around Bitcoin. That's because, they can block crypto all they want. I don't care. It's Bitcoin the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think the sheer panic that the governing class are going through right now is just it's just accelerating, and you can kind of see it. It's like the last throes of the sort of, Nero kind of thing, Rome is burning, and it's just they're desperately trying to cling on to the last vestiges of this fiat system
Mm.
that they so desperately know and love, and it's yeah, I mean, the Nigeria example was really stunning just to see the price of Bitcoin or Bitcoin rather trade at such a premium there and they
Yeah.
really understand. I think this is part of the problem in the Western world. A lot of people are quite comfortable in this fiat system, and they haven't really felt, when you're just having a small amount of inflation each year, you're not noticing it enough to kind of go out on the streets and protest. But that's coming. Um,
Yeah. No, for sure. And that was if I think of, my first film compared to the second one I'm working on now, the first one was maybe more for Westerners, for developed nations, because it was really explaining the economic situation, but for this part of our global society, the understanding the little bits of inflation, understanding how
mm,
inflation is being redefined. There was no mention of hyperinflation like we're seeing in some countries today, right? It was mostly about just understanding the economy and inflation for developed nations. I'm guessing it's also because I have my own biases, and this is most of the people to whom I was explaining Bitcoin were people from developed nations, and this is the message that worked best to explain it to them. But at the same time, after traveling some more, learning some more about the financial monetary situations in other countries, I thought maybe it's time to do one that is for actually the more important part of or rather for the part of the world that for whom Bitcoin could be even more important.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
it's interesting. I hadn't really realized how oppressive we were to developing countries really until I went down the Alex Gladstein rabbit hole. I mean, you obviously know who he is, but for anyone listening, he's the director of strategy at the Human Rights Foundation. Um, I think it was really that article that he wrote for Bitcoin Magazine about the IMF and the World Bank. And then I
Mm,
read Anita's piece as well, which was very detailed, where she was comparing kind of international human rights guidelines and how Bitcoin enforces them actually without needing to have laws as
mm,
such to do that. And once you kind of realize that, just how, entire nations of people have been put in positions where they absolutely will never be able to get out of it. And when you start to realize that, at least today, I mean, I think Alex Gladstein made the point that he said, I don't know, it may have been that when these things set up, they were done with good intentions,
mm,
but the mission has kind of digressed into something that's not good. But when you kind of see that and you realize that you're essentially living in a country and paying taxes to governments and organizations that are doing that, it becomes very hard to sit with that and not feel like you need to do something or raise awareness about it or change it. I don't know. I mean, I found that whole story of Bangladesh just
mhm.
horrifying. It's
Yes.
just yeah,
Mm,
I actually really hope. I mean, I've often thought about, just over the years, about Africa as a continent. Thought it's so resource rich, and it's never been allowed to flourish. Like, it never has been allowed to flourish. And I just wonder if Bitcoin is that exit ramp for them now, where they can just say, sort of, "F you."
yeah.
We're gonna now take charge of our resources and our governments. We're not going to be subject to dictatorships. We're going to, flourish and be independent. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know what you think about that. Do you think that that's the trajectory?
I mean, I think in a long enough time frame, Bitcoin isn't going
Mm,
anywhere. And that's the, again, this enlightenment that everyone is gonna have. So I think in a long enough time frame, this is gonna happen. And it's not only gonna happen in Africa, it's gonna happen everywhere, right?
mm,
But in the shorter term, I think it's also the case. I mean, especially in these places before our nations, our more developed world, I think we're still so comfortable with this fiat system that allows us to have this nice pillow, we'll see how the current banking situation unfolds. But for now, we just benefit a lot from the fiat system. And it means that even if we are just day-to-day people that don't care about anything, we're better staying in the system that we know. We're better trusting our governments because so far they've been good enough, right? And we'll see how long this holds. But Africa, I think, has a huge opportunity with Bitcoin when it comes to, all the resources that you mentioned. They could mine Bitcoin. So, and I know there's a
mm.
lot of initiatives happening there to help small local communities mine Bitcoin, get their own financial independence through the use of Bitcoin, but also be able to earn Bitcoin directly through mining and install power plants, small local power plants that also give them access to, internet. I mean, just this is crazy. We're having this call only because of internet. So many of the skills that I have, I learned them alone thanks to the internet. Um, I mean, being able to unlock this for anyone in Africa is a huge benefit for them, and I think for the whole planet, in fact, right? So I think that's the kind of opportunity that really exists there for them, which could lead to a huge boom and a positive boom for Africa, thanks to Bitcoin. And I really look forward to that. I mean, I think it would be really, really amazing. But there's a few hurdles that they have to go through first. I'm thinking mostly, and this will be part of my film as well, the CFA franc and what's happening in Central Africa that France has been controlling for decades now, since 1945. And French people don't know that. It's literally they like
I mean, I didn't know that. I tell you, when I found out about that was when that video of the Italian Giorgia Meloni, when that went viral, where
right.
she was on some panel, and it had been filmed, I think, a
Yeah.
couple of years prior. But she was saying this is basically keeping people enslaved, and I had no idea what the CFA franc was. And then
Mm.
I read, I think it was in Gladstein's piece or Anita's, it was one of them or both of them talked about it in more detail. Started reading about it, and I was like, my God, like, how is this even possible? I mean, it's shocking.
It is, and when you talk about it with French, because everyone in France, I mean everyone, most people in France will know that the franc CFA exists, right? And a lot of people will just repeat what is being repeated by France and by the IMF since the creation, is that it's great to keep financial stability in the region. Like, I mean, how condescending is that, It's
Yeah.
and that's the opinion that just people have, like what they can't take care of themselves there, they can't, I mean, I don't know. It's not freedom. simply put. It's not freedom. And Bitcoin is freedom money. And I hope that it will help unlock this situation for them and allow them to gain really their independence.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, the condescending is the exactly the right word. It's as if like, oh, we know better and we should just, you don't really know what you're doing. We'll manage things for you. Thanks. And take all your resources.
yeah, yeah.
Wild.
Mm.
Okay, well, best of luck with the film fest. I'm really looking forward to that. I was actually thinking when you were talking about that, I was like, are we going to see like an awards, maybe a Bitcoin film awards coming next? That would be a
So
cool.
yes, no, so there will be something actually because I mean for now obviously it's the first edition. We hope it's the first of many. We're trying to make it a popular thing so we could maybe join other Bitcoin conferences in other places and organize. And there's already been a lot of interest in Spain and Italy and Peru and like so a lot of people already reached out asking, can we do the same thing? And we hope that people will do it using our branding and we can be involved and help them
Right.
build all of that because we have the network, thanks to doing that, we have the know-how. Um,
Yeah.
but we are partnering with Geyser. Geyser is doing a Geyser grant, actually. So each of the films is going to have a Geyser project. And the idea is that you can vote for your favorite film by donating sats to that project. Now, Geyser and Orange Pill app, they're providing the funds for this grant, and every sat that is donated for one of the films is going to be matched by this fund, which is
Right.
amazing. And so we plan two prizes. There'll be the prize for the um, the film with the highest number of votes of donations, and then there'll be a prize for the one that raised the most, the biggest amount of satoshis, just to try and make it fair, because it's the first time we're just experimenting. It's a way to thank the filmmakers for their work, just give them a few sats for what they did, and yeah, just make it a bit more of a community thing as well. Open up the film fest to Twitter
Yeah.
because every single film is available online except one, I believe. The Cointelegraph one that is going to be premiere at the film, but
Right. But
everyone else will
presumably they'll
be.
release that afterwards, right?
Yes, 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 and
Yeah.
just be able to have people that couldn't make it physically to follow the film fest on Twitter as we communicate about it, as we say screening for this film is starting, watch it here, and share the link. People can watch it at the same time as us if they want.
Where are you doing most of the comms? Is that all happening across Twitter? So when the film festival is going on, is that kind of where one would follow it?
Yeah, I think that's the best. 'Cause I know we do have some volunteers that are running it on Noster as well, but Twitter is the more popular place. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So that's cool. So that's a better version of the Oscars award ceremony because you can actually vote directly and you vote with your SAT. So there's a commitment, there's some proof of work that has to go into it to put your vote in. I love that.
Exactly. Yes, yes. And we're gonna also run a lottery. Whoever donates through Geyser connected through Twitter, so we can of course find them, will be able to, win a prize and just try and make as many games as possible around this and try to get people to vote because I mean, it can be just a funny way of using sats. I think
Yeah, that's cool.
because
Are you,
microtransactions are allowed, so.
is anyone filming the event? Like, are you guys going to put together some kind of a mashup of the event afterwards?
Yeah, we have a Bitcoin focused YouTube channel from Italy. I can't remember the name, but they're coming over and they're going to be filming everything for us. They're going to be sharing this online and share a video with us. Yeah,
Oh,
we've got, of course,
fantastic.
from Cointelegraph, Joe Nakamoto is coming, and he's going to be also,
Yeah.
posting a lot on Twitter about what's happening, the films that are being screened, and so on. Yeah, so there will be things to see after the event.
That's amazing. Okay, I'm really looking forward to that. That's really cool. And I saw that you posted a poll on Twitter. You were saying about doing it at another location. So do you think that you might do Warsaw again, or are you going to aim to do a different location? I think you had Los Angeles, Rome, Barcelona, and something
Yeah,
else.
yeah,
Tbilisi,
yeah.
Tbilisi. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, it's really, yeah. Yeah, for now, we're just scouting. The easiest for us is if we can partner with some other local conference ideally, because
Mm,
you want to make sure people come, right? Because otherwise it's so much work for very little result. So if there is an event that brings people together that would be interested in this topic, and you organize it as a, you know, as a sister event, a side event, like we did here, then that's the best way. Because the way we did it is that from the website of the film fest, you can buy tickets for the film fest, but you can also buy them in bundle with the conference. And from
right.
the conference, same thing. You can also buy bundle tickets with the film fest, just because they're really, you know, sister events that are happening not at the same time, but on the same weekend. You know, like when one starts, the other finishes, and just to make sure there's always something happening. And that'd be the best, to be able to join other events, to make sure that a crowd comes and make it a, you know, a good event. So we'll see. We'll see. We don't have any idea. We'd really like to export the concept rather than just keeping it in Warsaw, but will all depend on the opportunities that present themselves.
I love it. I think it's an awesome concept. I'm so, so sad I can't be there. I would love to be there, but I wish you all the best. I'll be really excited to follow stuff. So I'll hopefully get this out for Sunday. So hopefully it'll be coinciding with the conference as well, somewhat. And yeah, I'll follow everything that you guys are doing. I did set a reminder for the spaces today, so I'll try and join that if I can. And
Brilliant.
yeah, it's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your journey, and yeah, we're looking forward to all the content that's coming out this weekend, and obviously your upcoming film as well. Just one last thing, can you let people know where they can find you? So your social media handle on Twitter, the website, and the social media handle for the film fest, and anywhere else that you want to direct them to.
Yeah, sure. So I think, I mean, of course, you can follow me on Twitter, Pierre Corbin, or if you type Pierre Corbin, you'll find me as well. I just inverse, you know, the first letters of my name and last name. Also, go follow Film Fest BTC. That's the Film Fest, so you know, you're up to date on everything that's happening there. There'll be a lot of things to share. You can find me on LinkedIn, anywhere. You know, I recommend checking out my website, pierrecorbin.com. For the articles that I write about some of the work I do and some ideas, but for content more related to the film that I made and the new film that I'm doing, it's thegreatresetfilm.com. So, you know, anyone can go check this out.
Perfect. Okay, and I'll put the guys' links as well in the show notes so people can access that and any of the promos. So then, you know, they can follow you, contribute to all your projects there.
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you. That'd be very nice.
Awesome. Well, enjoy your 25-degree weather there, and it was great chatting. And yeah, I mean, I hope to see you in person soon, but at some
Yes,
event somewhere.
yes, me too. I hope so too. Thanks a lot for having me, Chris. Very nice.